Welcome to the third episode of True Gambling Stories. I'm the writer and host, Sean Chapin. I want to thank all of you out there who have become listeners and all the great feedback we've gotten on the first two shows. If you missed one of our first episodes, please go back and give it a listen. If you really like us, please give us a 5-star review and maybe a nice comment wherever you access the show. At True Gambling Stories, we take a look each month at a unique tale of gambling or poker lore. It could be a crazy tale involving dice, cards, casinos, and big bucks. This week we focus on a crazy sports betting tale from the bright lights of Las Vegas. The legality of betting on sports has been in the news quite a bit lately, and we take a look at that too. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. As the debate over sports betting makes major news, this episode focuses on a sports bettor's dream. Tayla Polia overcame extremely long odds for one gigantic score. Parlays and Paydays. A small bet wins big cash. In 2015, 26-year-old Tayla Polia and her boyfriend Randy were looking to get out of Boston. They were just sick of Boston winters. She hated the snow and she hated the cold. Miami was the first choice, but they couldn't afford it. Los Angeles was also too expensive. Third on the list, Las Vegas. They packed their bags and were off to Sin City without any plans, but a big sense of adventure. Tayla grew up in the town of Malden, just outside of Boston. A tomboy, she loved sports and was even voted most athletic in high school. She was a huge Celtics fan, even though the team was really bad when she was young. As a teenager, Tayla and her friends would regularly buy tickets for $10 and sit in the cheap seats. One year, they attended half the Celtics' home games and were regulars at Bruins hockey games, too. Saying Tayla's a massive sports nut is definitely not an understatement. After high school, she studied communications in college and had an interest in sports broadcasting. In 2015, when she and Randy arrived in Vegas, Tayla landed an office job to help pay the bills. And as the only state in the country where sports betting is legal, they started placing a few bets here or there.
My boyfriend was the type where he always wanted to make money on his own. So he discovered sports betting and he was like, you'd be really good at this because, you like sports.
Tayla gave it a shot. Like many Americans, she figured a little action would make games a little more fun. A few dollars here on football, maybe a few bucks there on the Celtics game that night. And then she started playing parlays. She and Randy would take a look at that week's schedule in the National Football League and not just try and hit a few. They tried to hit them all. The odds were long, but the chance of a big score was exciting. Whether legal or not, sports betting is big business. The American Gaming Association estimates that Americans bet $4.76 billion on this year's Super Bowl. Of that, a record $138 million was bet at casinos in Nevada. Let that sink in. Only 3% of that amount bet was done so legally. It's also a testament to one simple fact: Americans love to wager on sports. It's also led to sports betting taking center stage in the news recently. The state of New Jersey began the battle to legalize sports wagering outside Nevada in 2011. Citizens of the Garden State passed a referendum allowing sports betting at racetracks and Atlantic City casinos. A year later, Governor Chris Christie signed the state's first sports wagering bill. Several sports leagues sued the state in 2012, arguing that New Jersey's actions violated the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, also known as PASPA, which was passed by Congress and signed into law in 1992. Here's where things get a bit tricky. PASPA was sponsored by then New Jersey Senator and New York Knicks forward Bill Bradley. Attorneys for New Jersey argued that the law violated the principle of states' rights, by allowing legal sports betting exemptions in only a few states. Those include Nevada for sports wagering and Montana, Oregon, and Delaware for certain types of sports lotteries and parlays. PASPA specifically exempts state sports wagering to those of state conducted between 1976 and 1990. New Jersey argued that PASPA violated the 10th Amendment because it commandeered the state's legislative authority by effectively requiring it to maintain unwanted state law prohibitions on sports betting. That's quite a mouthful, huh? New Jersey did not fare well in early attempts in federal court, but argued its case before the Supreme Court in December. Daniel Wallach, a gaming attorney in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, says the state's effort to legalize, regulate, and tax sports betting may have been rejected in earlier rulings, but believes it has a great argument and that PASPA may be struck down.
In short, New Jersey is challenging the constitutionality of the federal law which bans state-sanctioned sports betting. New Jersey believes that this federal law infringes upon by prohibiting states from regulating their own citizens without Congress setting forth any scheme of regulation or deregulation. Now, under the Constitution, federal laws trump state laws, but in order for a federal law to preempt a state law, New Jersey believes that the federal law has to set forth some type of policy, some type of scheme of regulation or deregulation. And PASPA does neither. PASPA just simply acts as a prohibition against states without setting forth any federal policy. So that's the nub of the argument.
Big money is riding on the decision. Fittingly, many in the sports world are handicapping the case. No doubt some are even taking bets on the outcome. Tayla and Randy were enjoying their new life in Vegas. There's always something to do in a city that never sleeps. Catch a show, hit a club, have a few beers with friends at a bar, and each week they'd play that NFL parlay. Now, for those who don't know, a parlay is a multi-game bet. Sasha Salinger is a host and presenter for Poker News, and also a regular sports bettor. She also produces fantasy sports videos for the site. She calls herself, quote, a casual degenerate, unquote, and has been betting for over a decade. Listeners new to sports betting may not know what goes all into making a wager. Sasha details some of the ins and outs of betting at a Vegas sportsbook, or nowadays maybe on your handy phone app.
Well, there's actually two different types of bets when you're sports betting football. There's what's called a money line bet, and then betting the spread. So a money line bet is just picking which team will win outright. It can be by 1 point, it can be by 14 points. You're just picking the winning team. So betting the spread is a little different. The house creates a spread, which is the amount of points that a team will win by. So let's just pick the New England Patriots and the Cleveland Browns, which Cleveland Browns are a terrible, terrible football team. So generally, a casino will decide, okay, the Patriots will beat the Browns by a lot of points because the Browns are so bad and the Patriots are so good. So that'll be probably a 14-point spread. And that means that if you're betting the Patriots to win, the Patriots have to win by more than 14 points. The Patriots have to beat that spread. So if you bet on the Patriots and it's a 14-point spread and the Patriots only win by 14, you push the bet. You don't win or lose. If the Patriots win by 15 or more points, then you win your bet. And if the Patriots win by 10 points, you lose the bet. So that's where it sort of gets nuanced and tricky.
Most people may not realize that you're not actually betting the house. Casinos don't like to lose money, and they've devised a system where they generally win no matter what. Sasha explains.
So how does the casino make money in this? Well, the casino takes what's called a juice. So a lot of times you'll see minus 110 or plus 110. That 110 number is how the casino makes money. What that means is if you see minus 110, you're betting $110 to win $100. the casino takes that $10 and puts it in their pocket. So they usually put about a 10% edge on each side, so they can make 10% from either bet. If you're betting, let's say, use the Patriots and Browns again, they'll say either plus 110 for the Browns or minus 110 for the Patriots and take 10% on each side. Now, if they see the money going in a ton of people, or one guy comes in with $10 million and he just bets the Patriots, then you'll see either the spread change. So they see a lot of people are betting the Patriots, so they'll make the spread even bigger. So if the spread was originally 14 points and they said, okay, the Patriots will win by 14 points, they'll move the spread up to 16, 17 points because they want people to bet the other half, the Browns. Ideally for a casino, they want even money bet on each side of the game so that they're sort of breaking even in their payouts and they're just collecting that 10% from each bet.
Tayla and Randy were betting parlays. You might ask, what is a parlay? It's simply a multi-game bet or series of bets, and it pays a higher payout because you have to hit every game and against the spread. Simply hitting one bet is tough, much less 2, 3, 4, or even more.
People do this generally because it's a way to make a little bit of money turn into a ton of money, but then the problem is the odds aren't usually correct for that, so it's not the greatest bet. It's fun. It's a fun gamble, but it's not the greatest bet because let's say you're picking two teams that are just supposed to win, that they're heavily favored to win. So you parlay those two teams together. Your odds aren't going to be, they're just going to be slightly better than just betting each game outright. So it's generally, in the sports betting world, considered better just to bet each game individually. And if you have some sort of information or you think a team's going to win, just bet it individually and don't put it in a parlay because, you know, you're risking a for sure bet on a team you think may win with a team that may end up losing. So if you want to bet on a team, just bet on the team and make them separate bets.
The odds may have been long, but Tayla just had a feeling. She was determined. So she kept at it, plugging in her NFL picks each Sunday for $5.
Every week, I remember texting my mom and saying, you know, this is too easy. Like, because every week we're only missing it by one. You know, we're getting very close, or getting very close. And I just kept texting my mom saying, this is too easy, things like that. And then finally I sat down, I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And it was probably about 5 minutes before you could stop betting because the first game was about to start. I sat down on my couch. I remember my boyfriend yelling at me saying, just make your picks. Who's going to win? So I'm just making my picks of who's going to win.
There were plenty of big games on the NFL schedule in Week 15 of 2015. The 16 games were punctuated by Monday Night Football between the struggling Detroit Lions and New Orleans Saints. Tayla's parlay didn't include Thursday's game between the Buccaneers and Rams or Saturday's game between the Jets and the Cowboys. When kickoff began, the games began to go her way. The Vikings were 5-point favorites and won by 21. The Falcons, Texans, and Redskins were all slight underdogs. They won outright and helped her cause. The Cardinals and Bengals were 4-point favorites and they notched double-digit wins. Double-digit spreads can always be a bit nerve-wracking. The Seahawks and Patriots were heavy 14-point favorites. Both won by 17. Throughout the day, her picks just kept hitting. She even had to select an over-under bet, in which the bettor selects a game and determines whether the total points scored will go over or under a certain point total. Tayla hit on that one too. She had the Steelers-Broncos going over 45. The result, the two teams totaled 61 in a 34-27 Steelers victory. She had the Steelers covering a 6-point spread as well, and that worked out also. In the end, it all came down to Monday Night Football on December 21st, 2015. It was a pretty meaningless game in the big picture of the NFL, but those meaningless games can mean a lot to someone with big money on the line. The 5-9 Lions were a 3-point underdog. to a struggling Saints team that was also 5-9. Tayla had 3-point underdog Detroit. The result? The Lions won the matchup 35-27 to complete an unthinkable parlay. You probably think Tayla was glued to ESPN that night, hanging on every snap and touchdown. That's not quite what happened. It turned out Tayla wasn't quite as educated about sports betting as she believed when she sent those texts to her mother. As most sports bettors will attest, hitting just a series of a few NFL bets is difficult, much less hitting 15.
I thought I knew what I was doing, but I didn't. I found out that I didn't understand spreads. I was just picking who I thought was going to win because I really knew the NFL and like the teams and things like that, but I didn't know spreads.
In fact, Tayla was not aware on Monday night that her parlay was still even valid. Not understanding the spreads caused some confusion. That Sunday, she picked the Giants, a 5-point underdog. But when the Giants only lost by 3, she didn't realize her parlay was still valid and in play. Needless to say, Tayla never even thought about hedging her bet before Monday night's kickoff.
No, I made the bet, forgot about it. So I was on Sunday, forgot about it. I was working at a law office. I went to work on Monday, 8 a.m. I didn't even remember that there was the game on. I think that was the day of the Detroit Lions game, I think, which was the last game on my ticket, on my parlay ticket. So I went to work that whole day, came home, nothing. Tuesday rolls around, and I'm just playing in the William Hill app. William Hill is the app that I used to place the bet on. I open the app, I'm just playing, and I noticed my ticket was still open. I'm like, what? Like, why is my ticket still open? Like, what? What? So I was looking, I don't even remember, honestly, I don't even remember checking to see if I won. I just called them right away. I'm like, tell me why my ticket's open. So, no, I had no idea that I won. Well, the guy, I can't remember who I spoke with, but I remember he definitely kind of chuckled at me, like when I kind of asked him about it, and he literally walked me through each one. He would say, okay, so number one, you have, whatever it was, say it was the Patriots, for example, you have the Patriots in this, okay, that covered, yes, check. Next, and we literally went down the list of the ticket together. So he literally walked me through it and then put me on hold right away, and then it was... the rest is history. I made him say it in like a full sentence. I made him say, so I just won $100,000. So you're telling me I won $100,000? And he was like, yes, you just won $100,000. Like, I just didn't believe it.
That $5 parlay had paid off, and she won 100,000 sweet dollars in cash. At work in a law office at the time, she fell to the floor in shock and excitement. On her lunch break, Tayla headed home to tell the story to Randy.
He just looked at me with a blank stare. I still can picture the stare. I'm picturing it right now. I can picture the blank stare. Like, just a blank stare, mouth wide open. Didn't really say much right away. And it was just more of shock, I think. Yeah. Like, wow, we actually did this, because this was big for us. It was a team effort, I consider it a team effort. I don't know. We just knew it was going to happen. I think being ignorant about the whole thing helped, because now looking at it, I look at the lines and I count, the spreads, and I'm all in, and I feel like ignorance played a big part.
And about those texts to her mom, looking back, she realizes how strange it sounds to say how easy it was to pick those games. Tayla had never even considered the spreads and truly thought just picking 15 winners would win. But in this case, it really did. Tayla certainly defied the odds. New Jersey is hoping it can defy the odds as well when the Supreme Court makes its ruling soon. Many are expecting a ruling by July, but it could be even earlier. New Jersey is not the only state in the fight. 20 other state attorneys general have signed an amicus brief supporting the state's argument. That ranges from states with casinos like Louisiana, Oklahoma, and West Virginia, to states without casinos like Texas and Tennessee. Several states with casinos, including West Virginia, have already gotten the ball rolling to legalize sports betting if the Supreme Court rules for New Jersey. Other states like Texas argue that sports betting should be left up to the states and not the federal government. Daniel Wallach comments on this aspect of the case.
Those attorney generals are looking at the broader, far-reaching consequences of the lower court's decision banning New Jersey from repealing its own state law prohibitions. These other states are concerned about the broader federalism principles of Congress dictating what states can or cannot do without setting forth any kind of a federal regulatory scheme.
In recent months, sports leagues like Major League Baseball, the National Basketball Association, and the NFL have had to deal with an uncertain future after opposing expanded sports gambling for decades. Some leagues have begun embracing a future where betting becomes a regular part of a fan's experience, like that in Europe. Many legal experts who viewed the arguments before the Supreme Court and have studied the case believe the ruling will go New Jersey's way. That includes gambling law expert Daniel Wallach.
The Supreme Court, at least by my measure, at least 5 of the justices seem to agree with New Jersey's position.
Most sports bettors have a similar response to Tayla Polia's story. That's insane. The odds are just so stacked against bettors in this type of wager. There are just so many variables involved. Let's get to the numbers. In just general terms, the odds of hitting a 15-team parlay are 32,768 to 1. Basically, the odds to pick a coin flip correctly 15 times in a row. Of course, that's not considering betting lines, favorites, and other factors. And in actuality, she was paid 20,000 to 1. That's not too bad, but definitely not the exact odds to accomplish the feat. After the win, Tayla's social media blew up. ESPN featured her, and other media outlets back in Boston came calling for interviews. What was the reaction from her mother and father like?
They were really happy for me, and honestly, my mom was like, "Oh, I know, I knew it, I knew you could do it." And I still have the text from her saying, like, "You'll do it." Like the text where I sent her that said, "Oh my God," it said something like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get this. It's so easy," or "Oh, we got this next week." Like those types of texts I was sending her every Sunday. I was sending her that because I won, and I think it was week 14, somewhere between weeks 13 to 15. I won. Like it was pretty late in the season, so I had 10 weeks at least of texting her. I got this. She's just texting me back. "Oh, I know. So when I told her, she was just like, "Oh, I do know it. Like, finally." My parents are super supportive.
Tayla and Randy are still living in Vegas. They're now giving it a shot as YouTubers with their channel RT2L. We all probably know someone like Tayla, someone who just seems to be naturally lucky. Through the years, she's won trips to Jamaica, Europe, and even a year's supply of chicken. After the win, Tayla and Randy used some of the winnings for a few small vacations. They also attended Super Bowl 51 in Houston. Always a Boston fan, Tayla was there to support her home team, New England Patriots, against the Atlanta Falcons. At the game, fate was once again on her side. The Patriots overcame a 28-point deficit to ultimately win 34-28, completing the largest comeback in Super Bowl history. Oh, and by the way, she had a futures bet early in the season on the Patriots to win it all at 15 to 1. Yet another winning ticket for this extremely lucky lady. Hey, we are really glad you liked the show. If you did, please let others know about us. Share us on social media, and then we could always use some 5-star reviews or some nice comments on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, or wherever you access the podcast. Also, an easy link to the show to send to friends is truegamblingstories.com. I want to give a big thanks to our guests Tayla Polia, Sasha Salinger, and Daniel Wallach. They were all fantastic. For Tayla, you can find her on YouTube on the channel RT2L and on Instagram at Tayla014. You can find Sasha Salinger on Twitter at Sasha Salinger with 1L, and you can also find her reporting on pokernews.com. Gambling legal expert Daniel Wallach is on Twitter at WallachLegal, and also you can find him on bplegal.com. The show was written and hosted by me, Sean Chapin, and edited by the great Robert Moreno, who does an amazing job. Please visit us on Facebook via @TrueGamblingStories, and on Twitter we are @GamblingPod. You can follow me on Twitter @PokerTraditions, and if you like these kinds of stories, please check out my book Raising the Stakes on Amazon.com. You can also check out more of my work at SeanChafin.com. If you have an idea for a story we should feature, please let us know. Look for our next podcast in late April. And lastly, for all your poker and gambling news, information, videos, podcasts, and my feature writing and reporting, please visit pokernews.com.